Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sacre for the 3rd of February 2022. I need to call for nominations for chair from Group D.
I nominate myself, Councillor Lonsdale.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lonsdale, would you like to take the chair?
Well, thank you for that. It might be quite useful for new members of this meeting to do a short introduction to themselves. So it would be good to go around the room and hear who everyone is and why you're here, just briefly. Please remember to use the microphone so that the recording picks you up and everyone can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Councillor Kurt Cuss, and I'm a councillor for Alveston Ward.
Good evening, I'm Ian Burton and AFEWT.
The microphone wasn't on. Could you need to lift the... Too many people got the microphones on, that one's not working. Can you just switch yours off? And Cindy, could you switch yours off, please?
Will do.
Testing. Good evening, NISWT member Ian Birkin.
Good evening, everyone. This is working. Yes? Yeah. Good evening. It's Errol Vassell, Reverend Errol Vassell from Holy Trinity Church, Pentecostal.
Good evening, I'm Viv Lawrence, Committee B, Church of England. Zoe Higgins. Is that working now? Zoe Higgins, Scargill CV Primary School. Shelley Byrne, NEU Union representative.
Phil Royal from the Methodist Church.
Thank you, everyone. Now we should move on to the appointment of chairs from Group A, B and C. Are there nominations for this? Do Group A first. Group A is Christianity and Other World Faiths.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Bill.
So that's Phil appointed. Group B is Church of England.
I nominate Viv.
That's Viv appointed. Group C, which is Teachers Association.
I'm guessing it's just me here then, isn't it? Oh, Ian. I nominate Ian then. I think you should do it. You're probably more experienced than me.
This is the first meeting.
Yeah, you're more experienced than me.
Are you happy with that, Ian? Okay, so Ian, we all support each other. So, okay, so Vice Chair.
Can I say, we usually rotate it around the committees. So each year it's a different one of the committees that takes on the vice chair's role. But that was before the pandemic, so I don't know whose turn it is now. It should be in the minute somewhere. But I don't know who it was last time.
Shall we start fresh? Since it's been such a long time since we've managed to meet, would anyone like to stand for Vice Chair from those 3 people who've just been appointed? No. Would anyone like to nominate anyone else?
Phil is the most experienced of us on the committee. It's been here an awful long
Phil,
time.
how would you feel about being Vice Chair? Phil is happy to be nominated as Vice Chair.
I'll second that.
Okay. Do we have any apologies for the meeting?
I've got Judith Willers, Raj Barley, Eve Sacker, Hardiel Singh Dillon, Reverend Anita Matthews, Martin Kane, Councillor Wood, Councillor Martin and Sam Hussain. Are there any further apologies? Okay.
I don't have any late items. I've only just been appointed chair, so I don't believe there are any late items. So, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of interest for this meeting? Okay, so item 7. This is going to be a very short and sweet meeting. Minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of March 2021 and matters arising. Are we happy to do the minutes as read?
Can I just say I did send my apologies, but they're not recorded in the minutes for that meeting.
So, can we update that? Matters arising? Or other adjustments from the minutes? Okay, so we will accept those minutes. So membership resignations and vacancies.
I have a feeling that we may have to wait until Dominic comes back, Karen, because I think Dominic's got a handle on the current vacancy situation that you may not. Dominic can't be with us because he's recovering from you know what. But Karen, I wonder if we can wait for that for the next meeting.
We do need to appoint Alan Barker and Ian Birkin.
Okay. Okay.
So this is noting really because it's look at number 8. If you look at item 8, the first part of that is the nominations for the 4-year term of office, then noting the resignations and then noting the current vacancies. So if we can appoint the 2, one to Group A and one to Group C.
Does anyone have any objections? Are we okay to appoint these? Yeah. So mark that as appointed then. Yep. So item 9, school mission statement discussion.
let me open this up so that I can see what notes I've made. Just another thing that used to come up on the agenda was if anybody had any links with any schools or heard of anything with any schools. So although it's not on the agenda, I would like to report, I heard last week that Spondon Methodist Church has a very good link with West Park School, and some of the more mature people, shall we say, from the Luncheon Club go into the school and chat with the youngsters there, and the youngsters from the school go into the Luncheon Club, and they are both benefiting immensely from it. So that's just something apart from the mission statements and whatever. So on to the topic in hand, and I'm not going to keep you very long, I hope. I may not look it, but I run, several miles a week, and in doing so I pass several schools, and a lot of those schools on the outside have their strap lines, as it were, what they're interested in, what they do, and so on. And the 4 words I see the most are success, achieve, ambition, and excellence, which sounds very much to me like Ofsted speak. And while I'm out running, my mind wanders, and I tend to think of things. And I thought, where are the words that are important? So happy, friendly, caring, inquisitive, cooperative, helpful, honesty, integrity, dependability. I could go on and on and on. But where are those? Those things that are really important in our lives for a well-rounded individual, which is what I think a lot of what Sacre here is about. Where are those? For example, my son is a failure. An absolute abject failure. He never attended school from the age of 12. He was a school phobic. His IQ is somewhere off the register, high up. He went up to Durham University, York University, to do theoretical physics, dropped out after 2 years, and is now a mountain guide and climbing instructor. So, to all intents and purposes, according to this, he's an abject failure. But he's leading young people into the mountains, taking them out on outdoor pursuits and so on, and showing them another way of life. Where are these children? Where is the recognition of these children who don't achieve, who are not excellent, but they should be happy. The thing I wanted most for my children was that they should be happy and content. Where is that in our school mission statements? Members of the jury, I rest my case.
Chair, may I say a couple of things, if that's all right? Phil, thank you for that. I would say it depends on your definition of achievement. I think if your son is happy doing what he does, then he's achieved. However, it does bring me to a point I want to raise this evening, and if I may, Chair, just say, it seems to me our principal objective over the next 12 months, if not next 6 months perhaps, is to re-energise this committee. I won't be the first one to say that, I think, about a variety of different organisations, but it does feel as though it's time now for us to say, okay, who are we? What influence do we have? How can we energetically address issues like the ones that Phil has raised? So I'm going to suggest, with your permission, I'm intending to write a report to reflect the realities of and the achievements of Derbyshire and Derby City, because it's the Derbyshire and Derby City agreed syllabus. Thank heaven we produced that when we did, it was timely, prior to lockdown. But I'd like to, with your permission, to write something for our next meeting, which does cover some of our achievements and gives us a starting point for future developments. I'd also like, and that, let me say, that would include case studies from schools. I've chosen 2 schools so far in Derbyshire, one of which, you'll be delighted to know, Phil, I've forgotten the strapline, but they got outstanding for personal development. And the other school talks extensively about the notions of courageous advocacy, which those who know about the church inspection will know how powerful that notion is within the ethos of many schools, including the school I've asked to write a piece about that very matter. But I'd quite like a school, and I'd quite like a secondary school, and I'm not, yes, I am looking at someone. I'd like a short case study from a secondary school in Derbyshire, in Derby City, about the work that they do to inform that report. I'm also going to ask, Chair, the Open Centre to write a short piece about the work they're doing. I'm also going to reflect upon the quality of training that was undertaken by colleagues in schools through RE Today. And with your permission, I'd also like, although we said we would survey first, I'm happy to survey schools to find out what continuing professional development they'd like. But I'd like to begin the discussion with RE Today earlier than that, to talk about a future continuing professional development programme for colleagues in schools. And it seems timely to do that. So it does feel as though this is a procedural evening rather than kicking off the re-energising of the group. But it would be great if people could just think about, prior to the next meeting, what we want to do, where we want to go. We've got until 2025 before we have to revise the agreed syllabus, but it doesn't mean our work is done, I don't think. I think it means that we should push on now from that foundation. I'm not intending to be here in 2025, incidentally, but I did say that 3 or 4 times. Every time we revise the agreed syllabus, I say, I think that's probably my last. But let me say in 2025, let me say in 2022, I think this is probably my last. But nevertheless, what I'd like to do is for us to think about how we can be dynamic. That's not to say we weren't, but we have had 2 strange years, have we not? And also let me emphasize again, and I did it earlier, I think it's fair for the SACRE to acknowledge the amazing resilience of colleagues in schools who have persevered and shown amazing determination. Yes. And credit to colleagues throughout Derbyshire and Derby City for that. Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I think that sounds appropriate, and it's to echoing the resilience, but also the innovation that people have had to do. I think when we're designing the 2025 version of this, we need to talk about what it's like to have a religious experience during, for each faith group. So that's very important. Anyone want to add anything else to that?
Is there any scope, and again, fairly new to see what we're doing, is there any scope to really engage with schools regarding the kind of emotional, mental health impact of what's happened over the last 2 years, and whether or not that has been looked at from a kind of like RE perspective in terms of support? I don't know if we do that kind of, or have that ability to look at that, because mental health has been quite a challenge for a lot of young people, I believe.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there are articles that have been written, and perhaps we could put that on the agenda of our next meeting. If it's of any value to you, and I hope it would be, my perception is those schools I know that have shown most resilience have had a very strong sense of moral purpose and not just a desire for academic achievement. So they have been, their sense of who they are has been rooted in that strong sense of moral purpose, as well as the pursuit of academic excellence.
Within the city, there are, I know of 2 schools, Littleover and I think Bemrose, who have a very good scheme of counselling for their youngsters, and also professional backup for the staff who are involved in that, which I think is to be commended.
Well, you mentioned Bemrose, but I didn't catch the other one. Littleover, thank you.
Littleover.
Does anyone else have anything more to add to this?
Well, I was going to say, sort of like if people wanted to come into schools, now that we're kind of over the hump, hopefully, I think that schools would welcome having people come in and talk about how faith helps deal with it. Because I know a lot of our students have really struggled with mental health, the ones that have had to be at home with their 6 brothers and sisters in a tiny house, and their mum and dad have been out at work, and they've been trying to do their online learning and keep their tiny brothers and sisters from killing each other. So I know they've struggled. I mean, you hear parents saying how much they've struggled. We've got 14, 15, 16-year-old children who've been doing that job. And I think they've come back, they've been very resilient, but I think they would find comfort in hearing people talk about how faith can help heal, can help people overcome their difficulties. I think if people wanted to come in to schools, I think schools will be absolutely over the moon about having people in now. I think we're getting to that point where we're feeling safe to let strangers into our building. So I think it would be nice to be able to arrange things like that.
Would certainly that would be certainly a good thing to do. I would very much encourage that. Definitely. Okay. If nobody has anything else to add, is there any other business? Okay, well then, thank you for attending, and anyone online who may be watching or catching up later, thank you for watching. We look forward to the next meeting, which is in March. And yeah, is in March. And yeah, see you all then. Thank you very much.
And thank you.